Hey everybody, welcome to Meals with Melissa, where we talk about the things that you love to eat and the healthier versions that you can use in order to reach your health goals. So today's awesome. I actually got this idea because this is probably one of the biggest questions I get from most of my clients is, can I have coffee? And my answer is always yes. However, coffee in itself doesn't have to be an issue. There are some things that we're going to talk about today, but it's what you put in the coffee that becomes the problem. And if you have been to Starbucks or any of your favorite, coffee shops lately, if you pay even a little bit of attention to the nutrition levels that they come with, it's incredibly crazy. Most of them contain a ton of calories and a lot of sugar. So today joining us is my daughter Aspen, because she is a coffee aficionado, but she's also very, very good at coming up with healthier versions of things to drink. And she's a little more adventurous than I am. I'm kind of just a really super simple, make my own coffee at home girl. And she's got all kinds of good things. So first thing we're gonna talk about really quick, because she's gonna get started on showing you something that she does. We're gonna talk a little bit about foamers. Now this is kind of one of those things that you might get when you go to your favorite coffee shop, but you can do these things at home. So I'm gonna let her take over for a second. She's gonna start it, and then we're gonna talk a little bit more about what types of coffee that are good options for you. So.
Okay, so for the foam, I use unsweetened almond milk, and it can be hard to foam because it's just...
Because less fat,
Less
right?
fat, yeah. So usually the fattier, the easier it is to
Right.
foam. But I mean, I can get it to work. Now, once you start adding things to it, like unsweetened dark cocoa powder or a little bit of cinnamon, or you sweeten it too much, it tends to just not foam at all.
Right.
Like,
So, yeah.
why good? I have no idea. But that's just what happens.
And that's probably why heavy whipping cream is much more easy to actually whip and get a thicker consistency. So yeah, the fat in it's going to break down and create some, we'll have to look that up, but create some chemical changes to it. So
I preferably use a foamer. They come in frother foaming versions. This one you can heat up and foam.
Cool.
Or the other option is just foaming it.
Right.
It just like for iced coffee, maybe you don't want hot foam.
True.
Or your coffee is already blistering hot. Like I burnt myself a million times. And
where can you find those?
Amazon.
And what's about the cost of that?
20, 30.
Yeah, I think I was seeing 25-ish. So okay,
yeah,
so that's
sure,
an option.
You bought it for me, so
I bought it for. And is that the one you use the most at this point?
Yes, I use it every day.
Okay, and tell us about the other option.
So the other option you can use for just like any drink. To be honest, it doesn't have to necessarily be to froth or foam milk. So I use it to stir my coffee. It's just a handheld. Okay. It's like $15-20 on Amazon.
It's almost like a mini immersion blender kind of.
Yeah, so I mean, like if you just wanted to maybe mix in like protein or collagen or whatever, you could just use this in your coffee. It's really nice.
And probably a little easier to travel with, maybe.
Yeah, I have a travel version one.
Yeah, okay.
And I mean, you can froth milk, like just put it in like a measuring cup and then do the milk and then use this.
Yeah.
It works. It takes a little bit longer, and you have to constantly hold the button, and it drains the battery, but it's fine.
Is it just kind of a fun texture to have in your coffee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a little bit about creamers and milks and things to add and what's good and what's not good and what has too much sugar. So
the trick to frothing is the amount you put in, because if you put too little, it won't froth.
Okay.
It won't. So, I mean, if you can have more, that's preferred. If you can't, you can always try it the other way with the handheld. And
so maybe just a little bit of practice is involved in getting it perfect to your consistency or your texture that you like. So she's gonna get that started over there. Let's really quickly talk about the different kinds of coffee that might work for you. Now we are going to approach and talk about things that you can get at your favorite coffee shop like Starbucks that are better options, because I know sometimes it's convenient or you're traveling and you want something a little different. But for me, honestly, I'm not a cheapskate, but I don't want to spend $10 a day on coffee for one coffee, right? So if I'm going to do it, I do it at home. I personally have a Keurig. I know that that's not super cheap either, and you got to keep that thing clean, which, yeah, we can attest, right? So that's an option. You're going to get, the little coffee pods. And honestly, for me, that's great. I actually also do not mind a Mr. Coffee pot. So if Aspen's making some coffee that morning, I don't mind pouring it. And honestly, if I go out, I'll hit a gas station that's just me. That's just how I like it. But some other options might be a French press.
This is a mini one.
Yep.
It's
yeah,
like a
very
one
small.
serving. If you're me, one serving.
Right. So that's an option. And what's the benefit of a French press?
So a French press, I guess it's all just different ways of roasting the beans, basically.
Right.
So French press, you use more fine ground beans.
Okay.
And so I guess it soaks up more in the water. Like the longer you let it sit, the stronger it is.
Okay, that makes sense. So.
Just like, I mean, drip is a little bit less fine.
Sure. And I'm not even going to talk about the different types of coffee beans. That is not my expertise. We have a sister daughter that works at Starbucks. That's more up her alley probably. But obviously, if you're kind of more into that, obviously that's for you. We're really just wanting to talk about how to make a healthier version of it so that you're not adding a lot of calories or sugars to your day that aren't necessary. I don't know about you. I would rather eat my calories than drink them. That includes alcohol. So anyway, all right. So she's going to show you the foam, and then we're going to jump into types of sweetener.
I don't know if you could see it.
Yeah,
it was like
there.
way down here, and then when it foams
Sure.
up, it's like huge. And
Oh, look at that. That's cool.
it's so, what's the word where it just makes you
Foamy.
happy?
Oh, yeah. Joyful.
I don't know. It's a different word.
And
I don't know if you could see it, but
Yeah, we can see it. And you know what? You can...
I like to go to the edge because I'm dangerous.
Yeah, and she you could sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon or unsweetened cocoa powder on top of that, and it would look pretty.
You could put it in here, but I suggest doing like a little bit, like literally like
Okay.
1/4 teaspoon. And I mean, you get a
I
hint
don't
of
know,
cocoa.
but just sprinkle on the top. You're gonna get the
Either.
scent, and it's just gonna look pretty. So.
If you want, you can put a little stevia in the foam too, because it's unsweetened almond milk, and then you could sweeten it a little bit just with
Absolutely.
stevia, and it's
Perfect, and that's
So
the
good.
perfect segue into what types of sweetener are going to work for you. Now, balance in all things, right? The downside comes to when you're when you're getting some of those options at Starbucks, you might be actually getting as much as 60 grams of sugar, which is insane. That's number one, more than you should be getting in an entire day. And number two, it's all added sugars, right? It's just not healthy, right? Natural sugars, now listen, it doesn't matter where the sugar comes from, your body responds the same. It actually spikes insulin and it tells your body to store. Sometimes that's a good thing, but most of the time, most people are getting way too much. So let's talk a little bit about sucralose. Unfortunately, sucralose is a derivative of sugar. So it just means that it's been taken from sugar, and they call it non-caloric, but that's not entirely true. They're following some loopholes. We do still use a little bit of product in our household that contains sucralose. We just try to mediate that. But these are just regular coffee, sugar-free coffee syrups we get from, there's a local restaurant supply place. That's probably where they're the least expensive, and they have the most options of flavor. So this one's Aspen's.
I would just say be careful though, because if you overdo it, you won't feel good.
Yeah.
Because I used to overdo it. I used to put it in everything,
Sure.
and it's just, your gut doesn't feel good.
Right. And you know, if you think about it, you know, I try to teach my people to really pay attention to the ingredient list, and we're actually going to go more into that in a second when we talk about the stevia and the raw packets. But you know, just pay attention. You know, anything ending in ose is sugar, sucralose is Splenda, and you do want to limit that. So even if you're getting that in aspartame, honestly, you should just avoid. Right? Even though it's GRAS in our country, which means generally recognized as safe, it is banned in most other countries, which kind of tells you something. So these work to a certain degree. So if that's and you can tell we have liquor pours in there, so we obviously use them. But other things that you can use, these are my favorite. The stevia drops by Sweet Leaf. Caramel's my favorite. They do have she doesn't like it.
I don't like the caramel.
She doesn't like the caramel. At least it tastes like caramel to me. But they have a bunch of different flavors. You can find them locally. I know here in the Tri-Cities we can find it at Yolks. You can also get them on Amazon, although that's not my favorite choice. But that's an option. They come with coconut chocolate. I find that sugar-free chocolate stuff doesn't taste very good. So be careful with that. Same thing with these. The chocolate one, the peanut butter. Right, just not great
If it's
options.
something weird, don't.
Yeah, you're gonna find you're honestly better off to use like PB2 or the unsweetened cocoa powder. So find something that's a little more natural. This one's just a non-flavored option of stevia, but again, you still need to read the back, the ingredient list, because this does contain erythritol. And what if I get too much erythritol? It gives me really horrible stomach cramps. So.
One thing, the Splenda brand has a monk fruit version of this. It's
Okay.
not Splenda, it is monk fruit, but
Which is
it's
okay.
Splenda brand.
Right. Okay. Good to know.
Which, I mean, it's less sweet, it's a different taste, less bitter, but
Right.
It works.
So when it comes to sweeteners, stevia, like pure stevia, and monk fruit are your better options because they are derived from specific plants. Now, stevia is going to, like she said, taste a little more bitter. We do have, my buddy gave me this. It's stevia extra. It is pure stevia.
I like it.
She likes it. It definitely is a little more bitter, but there's nothing else in it, right? Which is super important because, again, if you look at some of the options that you have, this is stevia in the raw. The problem with this is that the very first ingredient in this is dextrose, which actually, again, ose is a form of sugar. You'll actually find dextrose in salt, which I find fascinating, but it actually helps keep it from clumping. But again, you got to pay attention because you don't want to use a lot of this, right? And the different brands will have different ingredients, right? So if you start looking at like the store brand, it contains erythritol. If you look at, you just have to pay attention. Again, sugar alcohols and also the erythritol can give you some digestive distress or some gut issues.
Nobody likes that.
Nobody
I've been dealing with that. Nobody likes it.
Nobody likes that. So pay attention, listen to your body, right? If it doesn't feel good, it's probably not good for you. All right, are we missing anything on the sweeteners? Oh, how about talking really quickly about the natural added flavors, or when you're getting something that has artificial flavor to it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so things like the pods for the Keurig. So this is my absolute favorite Keurig flavor. It is toasted graham, but obviously you can't get toasted graham coffee beans.
Right.
So
you could get the ground ones, but again, you're gonna have some weird.
At the same time, it's going to be added to it.
Right. So artificial flavors usually involve some sort of chemicals, additives and preservatives, and you got to keep that in mind that that's probably not your best issue.
Like, it might say natural flavors, but
natural flavors does not mean what you think it means.
Yeah, so there's other ones like caramel macchiato or toasted marshmallow or hazelnut or whatever.
So do you think that that's okay to have once in a while, maybe?
Yeah. I mean,
listen to your body, right?
Once I start feeling awful, I'll stop.
Right. And so last thing about sweeteners really quickly between stevia and monk fruit, because those are your best options. Stevia, you don't need much. If you look at the tiny little, is it in there?
Yeah, it's
the little
so tiny.
Scoop, it's so ridiculous.
She didn't even know it was in there.
I didn't even know it was in there. I didn't. It's like ridiculous.
Just like super
you
close.
just don't need much. Now monk fruit is a little less strong, so you're going to need more of it in order to taste the sweetness of it. You cannot take like a cup of sugar and just swap it out for like a cup of stevia. It does not work that way. Make sure you know the swap over. Go ahead and look it up. You can find it somewhere on the internet.
Another thing is that you can become, what's the word? Not resistant, but just used to it.
Yeah.
You can become used to it. Like, I probably should go off of this because I have to use so much to actually get the sweetness or whatever you're trying to get out of it.
Yeah, just like anything else. It's kind of like the more sugar you eat, the more sugar you want, even the sweetness. And realize, guys, as soon as anything sweet, even if it's a healthier option, touches your tongue, the saliva releases the enzymes that tell your body to start storing, because you have the enzymes in your saliva that break down carbohydrates. So
that's when digestion starts. So.
Absolutely, right? You have to think of the whole process. Okay, so really quickly, we're going to talk about creamers and milks. Now, first of all, I've had a lot of people say, well, can't I have sugar-free creamer? Now, I don't have one here because we haven't purchased one in a while. The first ingredient on sugar-free creamer, vegetable oil. If that's not disgusting to you, I don't know what to tell you, but vegetable oil and canola oil is horrific for you.
If it's not first, it's very close to first.
Right? And realize the first few ingredients in any product, it has the most, right? So it's got a lot of vegetable oil. And what is that doing in a creamer? I don't understand that. So really, sugar-free creamer is probably not your best option. So here are some substitutes for you. This is her favorite.
Favorite flavor.
Yep. And Premier Protein, honestly, it's one of those that, well, again, still not your best option. It's not your worst either. And she doesn't use much of it, and there's a ton of flavors.
Yeah, this whole 1 11-ounce thing lasts me like a week.
Right.
Because I use like 1 ounce or so.
And they're always coming out with new interesting flavors. This
one's cinnamon roll. My second favorite is cookies and cream. And then they have cafe latte, which, I mean, it's just coffee and coffee.
Yeah. So, when I first started my journey, that I used the chocolate Premier Proteins every morning. That was the first thing that I drank because I knew I needed more protein. It was a learning process. So not a horrible option, but it does have some additives and preservatives, so keep that in mind. The next one is heavy whipping cream. Now, again, if you're more keto or low carb, this is not a bad option in order to get your fats in. It is higher fat. The two downsides is that number one, you're not gonna be able to travel well with it without keeping it cold. It does go bad, right? Because it's dairy. The second part is if you have a real intolerance to dairy, this one doesn't bother me. This doesn't bother me. I have extremely lactose intolerant, and this does not bother me. So again, you'll have to see what your tolerance for it is, but that is a good option. Let's see, what are we looking at? 15 milliliters, what? So 1 table, definitely measure things out.
I started measuring my heavy cream like 2 summers ago when I was in that phase of using heavy cream in my coffee. And one day I just decided to measure it, measure it. And I was using way more.
Right.
Than I thought I was using.
That seems to happen with peanut butter at our house as well.
Oh yeah, a spoonful is not a serving, so you should know.
So measure things out, because otherwise, it's really easy, especially when it comes to fats. Remember that fats are 9 calories per gram. So if you get 2 servings by accident thinking you're getting 1, you're getting double the amount of calories, and that can add up pretty quick. So yeah, that was probably needs to go away. But this is one that they actually had at Costco not too long ago. Nut milks are a great option. The unsweetened version is what you're looking for, because again, we don't want to add extra sugars. We're really trying to stay away from that. And this is actually pretty good. Macadamia nut. We also use a ton of unsweetened almond milk at our house.
So much. We usually buy it by like the half gallons.
Yeah, we usually buy
this is not a half gallon. This is just an example.
So, and honestly, I travel with it. Even on a plane, you can get a 3-ounce container, wash it out really well, fill it full of that, and then
no excuses.
Yeah, seriously.
Like if you, whenever I go to a restaurant,
right,
I'll bring my own creamer.
Stuff.
Like if we go to IHOP, I'll be like, okay, I'll take this and then a 3-ounce.
Yep.
I'll show you.
Yep, she's got it. We do this all the time. You can take food on a plane. So
this is only 4 of them.
Yeah.
They're literally 3 ounces.
They're just literally 3-ounce airplane containers.
You can put your almond milk, your protein.
Yep. So again, you have options. You just listen. The one success tip that I give everybody is be prepared, think ahead. If you don't know what you're eating tomorrow, you're already in trouble, right? Because it's just too hard to do it on the fly. But if I already know I'm going on a trip for 4 days, I bring 2 of these full of my own milk, or I stop at a grocery store, I'm good. I'm good to go. Really quickly, I do want to cover actual milk, because a lot of people, we all grew up with those. That's not going to stand up. We all grew up with those, hey, milk does the body good, and that's your perfect source of calcium. Actually, spinach has more calcium than milk. But the problem with that is that most milk contains a lot of sugar, also known as lactose, right? So you have to pay attention to that. Not only that, 1% in skim is not your best option. They're actually more processed than whole milk. So,
well, if you think about it, if you get normal milk, how do you make it less fat? You have to process it.
Right. So remember, anything that's processed is broken down. So if you're getting skim milk, you're actually just getting the sugars faster, because there's no, number one, fat to slow down the absorption of the sugars to your bloodstream. But again, it's processed. So honestly, we're not going to talk about raw milk today, but because of course, food-wise and issue-wise, people in the past, there's a reason why we do now get pasteurized milk at the store.
And it's whole milk.
Yeah.
We get this for, my little brother. He's not little.
No, he's not. He's about the tallest one in here. So keep that in mind. All right. So the other couple things that we wanted to talk about really quick. Number one, we want to talk about limits on caffeine, right? Because, having a cup of coffee in the morning isn't bad. Number one, how your coffee beans are processed does matter, right? You can listen to podcasts that talk about how mold can actually get in the coffee bean in certain areas before it gets to you. That is a problem. But for me, when I work with clients, I'm like, a cup of coffee here and there is not a big issue, but you can overdo the caffeine. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind. Number one, caffeine is a diuretic, so it does not count towards your water for the day. It is a stimulant to your bowels, so totally understand that, a cup of coffee every morning is going to help the motility in your bowels in order to help you do your thing. But too much of it is going to really hit your adrenals. There is you can have too much of anything, right? Even if it's decent for you.
And I know it can be hard when you hit that after lunch, snooze of the day, but
Yeah, and
so then maybe that should be your caffeine boost is then, not in the morning, you know?
But if you're eating enough, you technically shouldn't have a blood sugar drop and have that issue. So that's kind of a balance.
That and like, you can get decaf. Like I used to be like,
100%.
oh, decaf is for babies, but no, it's not. Like this is decaf right here because I've had my limit.
And if you're drinking it too late in the day, even if you think that it's not keeping you from sleeping, it's probably keeping you from getting good sleep. So keep that in mind. I know we've all been in that situation where like, I can drink it right before bed and I'm fine. Yeah, you're probably not getting a deep enough sleep if that's the case.
And I mean, we are culprits. We do it.
We know.
We do it too.
Right.
So
I always tell people I'm not immune to that kind of thing. I just know better.
It's basically like giving advice.
Well, you know,
but it's
we
fine.
know we all have our thing. We all have our thing.
We just suffer the consequences.
We just know the consequences. Okay, so really quickly, I'm going to let Aspen tell you a couple of things about options that you can get at your favorite coffee shops that work well for you instead of the, Mocha Chocolate, whatever that's, like seriously, you could get like a whatever, the tall option with 800 calories and 65 grams of sugar. Guys, seriously, you are drinking yourself to diabetes. So, options that you can have that might work for you.
Okay, so at Starbucks, you can customize your drink however you want. Like even before my sister started working there, I knew all of the ways. So basically, if you get a iced cold brew, you can ask for no classic syrup, which is just basically straight sugar.
Right. And they do carry sugar-free,
They do carry sugar-free. So you could just make sure that there's no classic syrup, and then you can add sugar-free vanilla, sugar-free cinnamon dulce. They have, if you do mochas, they do have skinny mocha, which isn't the best, but if you have to, they have skinny mocha, which is a good substitute. They do have heavy cream and creamer, and it's two separate things. So if you're very lactose sensitive, when you ask for cream, they put in, I can't remember if it's one or the other, but they put half and half, not heavy cream.
Okay.
It might be the other way around. I would probably have to ask my sister, but if you ask for cream, it's one or the other.
Right.
So make sure you're
Just
very
know
specific.
what you're getting. Yeah.
Yes. They do have monk fruit. They do have stevia. They do have the other options that we don't prefer, like Splenda and all that fun stuff. But they also have dark, unsweetened cocoa.
Perfect.
Which is amazing.
Which is an option,
it's
right?
It's amazing, yeah.
If you love your chocolate.
They do anything. So if you like frappuccinos, but it's really hard to make them healthy, literally just ask them to blend your drink. So get the healthy thing or whatever. Get Americano, put sugar-free vanilla, splash of almond milk, because they do have almond milk, but they don't have unsweetened, so be careful how much they add. Or take your own. That's what I do. It's cheaper too.
Yeah.
And then just ask them to blend it. And then it's basically like a frappuccino.
Right. So all it requires is a little homework, right? If you know what's in it, like if you're getting something and you literally have no idea what comes in it and you haven't looked up the nutrition facts, yeah, that might be a big problem. Again, if you just do a little preparation, know what you're getting, know maybe a swap out, a substitute that you can do, and ask for something very specific, then you're making a healthy choice and that works.
Another thing, before we do whatever's next,
Wrap
is when you get your drink and you're kind of over your limit on caffeine, but you still want a little, you can ask for like half decaf.
Okay.
Or 1/3 or whatever size you get, you can ask for half of it to be decaf, which is what I've been doing lately because it'll be 1 o'clock and I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to have awful sleep tonight, but I still have to, make it through the gym and eat and go to bed. So I ask for, because I get a grande at Starbucks, and that's 3 shots of espresso, so I ask 1/3 decaf.
Options. And that's the whole point is most of the places, they're into customization because honestly, the more customized, the more upcharge they give you. But that's not necessarily a bad thing if you can make better choices on that. The other thing is if you are going to a franchise like Starbucks or Dutch Bros, you can look up the nutrition information on their website in advance. And again, don't just look at what it says. I definitely look sure, like that to me, that's big. But I also, if I can see what's included in it so I know what I'm getting, that's a big part of it because you don't always know from the nutrition label exactly what you're getting. Sometimes you have to know the ingredient list.
Yeah, and another tip is a lot of restaurants lately have been not necessarily partnered, but on MyFitnessPal. So
Right.
you can
Fantastic.
put in a drink into MyFitnessPal if you want to.
And that makes it
their
a whole
food.
lot easier than trying to figure it out yourself. So,
Yeah.
you know, and that's the great thing is a lot of places now are becoming a little more interested in helping us, those of us that are choosing to go a healthy route. They really want to make sure they serve us for that because otherwise they lose a pretty good client base. So that is a great option. Check it out on MyFitnessPal, see if it's there. It's really not that hard to add separately if you really need to. And once you do it, you can actually save it as a recipe and you don't have to add it separately every time. So, any last thoughts? I think we did pretty good. That's a pretty good coverage.
Yep.
And so, again,
Just be thoughtful.
you can have it. Just make sure, it might even take you a minute. Listen, if you're addicted to sugar, it's going to take you a minute to get off of it. You're going to have withdrawal, like real physical withdrawals, headaches, fatigue, dizziness, even like it's a real thing. Just like because technically it's an addictive substance.
Same with caffeine.
Yep, same with caffeine. You're also going to have to switch your taste buds when you're starting to use healthier options because it tastes differently. When food is processed and designed a specific way to addict you, your taste buds change. They prefer it, right?
It's all chemicals.
It is. So again, like she said, the more you take of something sweet wise, the more you need in order to get that sweet. So it's going to take you a minute to reduce your taste buds back to being okay with naturally sweet things. So I think that's everything. I think we'll wrap it up. Thanks for being here today.
Hope this helped you because I love coffee.
Yeah. Well, you do. We have a coffee bar. Have a great day, you guys. Until next weekend. Listen, I get some of my very best ideas from you. If you have an idea, I've got a couple coming that somebody's given me. So they're coming. I'm excited because it's summer and I love things that are cold. So, drop me a line, leave a comment below. You can also message me directly at Facebook Messenger. Please don't be creepy. I've had a few lately that I'm like, whoa. But, seriously, let's share this to the world. Really, the goal is to help everybody be happy and healthy. And why not help each other in this process? So have an incredible day, you guys. Also, if you want to see the latest episodes and the rest of the ones that I've done for Meals with Melissa in the last, 5 years, subscribe to my YouTube channel under Fillmore Fitness so that you see the latest options when they become available. Have a great day, you guys. Bye now.